During the early 1980s, there were multiple problems causing hardship in the Soviet Union, including a decline in national income growth as well as a decline in productivity increase rates. The Soviets invaded Afghanistan in 1979 believing it would be a quick victory, however it continued without a Soviet victory. Similarly to the US and Vietnam, it led to a high cost, and decreased public support and trust in the government. This, however, was only the beginning of the problems for the Soviets this decade. Mikhail Gorbachev is chosen to run the Soviet Union after the previous leader dies. He is tasked to revive their struggling economy and implements two policies, glasnost and perestroika. Glasnost translates to openness, and had goals to make the government's doings more free to the public and to rid of secrets. Perestroika loosely translates to restructure. This reform had goals to give the Soviet people some private ownership rights and relinquished government control of certain markets in the country to kickstart the economy once again. Early in the day of April 26, a safety test at the Chernobyl plant in Ukraine went horribly wrong. Engineers shut off key safety systems to simulate a power outage, but due to a flawed reactor design and human error, the reactor reached energy levels far over what it could have handled safely. Once the engineers noticed this, it was too late for anything to be done, and they had to watch what was about to unfold. The reactor overheated and exploded. The blast released radioactive material into the night sky, and was the worst nuclear disaster in history up to that point.
The disaster is now complete.
Chernobyl killed only 2 during the blast, but multiple dozens of first responders died within weeks, forcing over 350,000 to evacuate their homes. Gorbachev and the Soviet Union had to pay over $200 billion in cleanup costs. On November 9, 1989, a key symbol of communism finally fell. Between protests by the citizens and the newfound policies by Gorbachev in the Soviet Union, the border between East and West Berlin opened and the crowds begun tearing down the walls. This was one of the first satellite states in the Eastern Bloc to fall, foreshadowing the dissolution of many more Soviet states. Many traditional Russians, who were strong believers in the old hardline communist ways, did not like Gorbachev's reforms. Yanayev and the Gang of Eight led a coup to take power. They placed Gorbachev on house arrest and rolled tanks and military into Moscow. However, the citizens resisted, and an up-and-coming political figure, named Boris Yeltsin, climbed onto a tank and gave a speech rallying the Russian people to protect democracy. This coup failed thereafter, and showed how weak and divided the Soviet Party was at this time. During this period, the Soviet Union began falling apart, one state at a time. The beginning was the Baltic states. Lithuania began the trend by declaring independence in 1990, followed by Latvia and Estonia. Through protests, more and more republics broke off from the Soviet Union. After many long months of republics breaking off from the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev addresses the nation. He announces his resignation, and his successor Boris Yeltsin will be taking over as president of Russia. The hammer and sickle was lowered for the last time, and the Russian flag was raised over the Kremlin.